Amara sat in front of her vanity, the early morning light filtering softly through the curtains, casting a warm glow on her room. The air smelled faintly of lavender, a scent that always reminded her of her mother. It was a calm, peaceful morning, just the kind she loved.
Hey there, and welcome to Freezy Stories. Get ready for another amazing story that will keep you hooked from start to finish. If you love great storytelling, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss out. And if you enjoy this video, show us some love by liking, commenting, and sharing. It really helps our channel grow. Now, let's dive into today's story.
Amara sat in front of her vanity, the early morning light filtering softly through the curtains, casting a warm glow on her room. The air smelled faintly of lavender, a scent that always reminded her of her mother. It was a calm, peaceful morning, just the kind she loved. Her fingers lightly touched the heirloom necklace lying in front of her, its gold surface catching the light. It had been passed down through generations of women in her family, each one wearing it on her wedding day. Her mother had worn it, and now it was Amara's turn. The necklace was more than just a piece of jewelry, it was a symbol of love, of tradition, and of the bond between generations. It felt like the weight of the world rested on it, though in a good way. As she fastened the clasp around her neck, a soft smile played on her lips. Everything seemed to be falling into place perfectly. In just a few weeks, she would marry Obinna, the man who had captured her heart all those years ago. They had been together for as long as she could remember. She thought of all the memories they'd made, the quiet walks, the late-night talks, and the shared dreams of a future that now felt so close. The wedding plans were almost complete, and everything was set for a picture-perfect day. Obinna was the love of her life, and she couldn't wait to start the next chapter with him. Her phone buzzed, pulling her from her thoughts. It was a message from her best friend, Adanna. "We're on our way, can't wait to celebrate with you, bride-to-be." Amara smiled again. The bridal shower was finally here. Her three best friends, Adanna, Chioma, and Nkechi, were coming over to help her celebrate. She had known them for years. They had all been by her side through thick and thin, from school days to now. But, as she thought about them, her smile faded just a little. There had always been a quiet, unspoken tension between them. It wasn't anything major, just little things. Little moments that Amara sometimes couldn't explain. Adanna was the picture of perfection. Always put together. Always calm. She never seemed to let anything shake her, which made her a little hard to read. She was the type of person who always had everything figured out, and for the most part, Amara admired that. But there were times when Adanna's perfection felt intimidating, like there was no space for anyone else to shine in her world. Then there was Chioma. Chioma was the life of the party. She had this energy that could fill up a room, always talking, always laughing. Her quick wit and humor made her the center of attention, and people loved being around her. But sometimes, Amara wondered if Chioma was hiding something deeper. There was this frantic edge to her that Amara couldn't quite place. It was like Chioma was always trying to cover up some hidden worry with her jokes and infectious smile. And then there was Nkechi, the quiet one. The one who always observed, who never spoke unless she had something important to say. Amara appreciated how grounded and reliable Nkechi was, always there when she needed her. But there were moments, tiny moments, when Amara could have sworn she saw something in Nkechi's eyes. A kind of longing, or maybe jealousy. When she caught her looking at Obinna, there was a certain way her gaze lingered that made Amara's stomach twist. But today wasn't the day to dwell on all that. Today was supposed to be about fun, about celebrating the future. Amara took a deep breath, letting it all go. She had her friends, her family, and soon, she would have Obinna as her husband. Everything was coming together, and she couldn't wait for the day to unfold. The sound of a car honking outside caught her attention. Her friends had arrived. Amara took one last look in the mirror. She looked every bit the picture-perfect bride she had always dreamed of being, the one who would have everything go according to plan. She was ready for the day ahead. As she made her way downstairs, she heard the sound of laughter echoing through the hallway. Adanna, Chioma and Nkechi were already inside, greeting her auntie, who was busy in the kitchen making last-minute preparations. "Amara, you look beautiful," Adanna exclaimed, rushing to hug her. Chioma followed close behind, arms wide, pulling Amara into a tight hug. "You're going to make the most gorgeous bride," she said with a grin, her eyes sparkling with excitement. Nkechi smiled softly, giving Amara a warm hug as well. Her eyes were kind, but there was a quiet, almost unreadable expression behind them. The next few hours were filled with laughter, games, and gifts. The bridal shower was everything Amara had hoped for. Fun and carefree, a chance to bond with her friends and family before the big day. Yet, despite the laughter and joy, there was something hanging in the air, something she couldn't quite put her finger on. The undercurrent of tension between her friends was still there, lingering just beneath the surface. But for now, she pushed those thoughts aside. Today was about celebrating love, about celebrating the future. Everything would work out perfectly, just like her wedding. Or so she thought. The bridal shower was in full swing, with laughter and music filling the house. The air was warm, buzzing with excitement as Amara's friends, family, and a few close relatives gathered to celebrate the bride-to-be. The table with hors d'oeuvres and champagne glasses clinked together in cheerful toasts. Amara sat at the center of it all, beaming with happiness as her friends surrounded her. Adanna, Chioma, and Nkechi were close by, each of them raising their glasses to toast her. But Amara couldn't help but notice the strange, almost calculating looks they exchanged when the glasses were lifted, a brief flicker of something in their eyes before they smiled at her. "To Amara, the beautiful bride-to-be, may your life be filled with love and happiness," Adanna said, her voice smooth and almost too perfect, like everything she said was carefully thought out. The words sounded sincere, but Amara couldn't shake the feeling that there was something more beneath them. "To love, to family, and to friendship," Chioma chimed in, her laughter quick and easy, but her eyes darted nervously around the room. The sparkle of excitement in her voice seemed a bit too loud, almost forced. It wasn't like Chioma to be on edge. Nkechi, ever the quiet one, simply nodded and raised her glass, her eyes meeting Amara's with a soft, unreadable look. She smiled, but it was tight, her gaze lingering on Amara's face a little longer than necessary. Amara didn't understand why, but that moment felt like a crack in the otherwise cheerful atmosphere. The champagne flowed freely, and the party continued around them. Amara didn't notice the tension building in the corner of the room. Her attention was on the games, the laughter, and the little gifts that her friends had brought for her. The afternoon felt perfect, at least it seemed perfect, but beneath the surface, secrets simmered. Adanna stood just a little too close to Obinna when he arrived, her hand lingering on his shoulder a second too long as she whispered something in his ear. Amara didn't notice. She was too busy greeting other guests. But the way Adanna's fingers lightly grazed Obinna's collarbone didn't escape Chioma's sharp eyes. "I can't believe she's still like this," Chioma muttered under her breath, her lips curling into a barely noticeable frown. "Always playing the perfect little bride." Nkechi caught her eye. "You should focus on yourself for a change, Chioma," she whispered, leaning in so only Chioma could hear. "You've got your own mess to deal with." Chioma rolled her eyes, but there was a nervous energy about her. She turned away, her fingers fidgeting with the rim of her champagne glass. Deep down, she knew the truth: she was drowning in debt. No matter how many smiles she plastered on her face, her financial troubles were catching up with her. The luxury that others saw in her life was a facade, a mask to hide the cracks beneath. And with Amara's wedding coming up, the pressure was unbearable. Meanwhile, Nkechi stood off to the side, her phone hidden in her palm. She'd been texting him all morning. Her lover, the one who was still a secret to everyone. The affair was something she never planned for, but once it started, she couldn't stop. It was thrilling, dangerous, and forbidden. But now, the consequences of her choices were beginning to weigh heavily on her. She didn't want anyone to know, especially not Amara. If she ever found out, well, that was something Nkechi couldn't even imagine. The hour grew late and the laughter slowly began to fade. Amara was enjoying herself too much to notice the subtle exchanges happening around her. But just as the party seemed to be winding down, the girls slipped away unnoticed. They didn't need to explain to anyone why they were leaving. They had a much bigger plan, something far more important than a bridal shower. In the dimly lit corner of a nearby cafe, the three friends gathered around a table. No champagne this time, just water and coffee mugs. Adanna spoke first, her voice low but filled with conviction. This has to happen. There's no turning back now. Chioma shifted uneasily in her seat. I don't like this, Adanna. If anyone finds out... No one will find out, Adanna cut her off sharply. Trust me, it'll be fine. Nkechi glanced around, ensuring no one was listening, before leaning in. I'm in. I know what I need to do. Her tone was quieter than the others, but her eyes were hard, determined. Chioma looked down at her hands. I'm not sure, you know. Things are complicated. If Amara ever found out... She won't, Adanna said, her voice firm, with an edge of finality. She'll never know what's coming. It's all set. The timing is everything. The three of them shared a look, one that held 1,000 unspoken words. They all knew that what they were about to do would change everything. Amara had no idea, but her perfect wedding, her perfect life, was about to be shattered by them. With a final, silent agreement, they all stood, ready to play their parts. As they left the cafe, each of them carried their own weight, their own reasons for betraying their friend. And none of them knew just how far things would spiral from here. The car rumbled down the narrow road, cutting through thick trees and rolling hills. Amara stared out the window, her excitement for the bachelorette getaway bubbling up with each mile they drove. It was supposed to be a relaxing weekend, just her, Adanna, Chioma, and Nkechi, getting away from all the wedding planning madness. They had chosen a secluded resort far away from the city, the kind of place where no one could find them. The perfect spot for a girls' weekend, or so Amara thought. Adanna was driving, her hands gripping the wheel a little too tightly. She was silent, her usual chatter replaced with a quiet, focused expression. Chioma sat in the passenger's seat, her phone in her lap, eyes darting from the screen to the rearview mirror. Nkechi, as usual, was in the back seat, her face unreadable, staring out the window. The tension in the car was palpable, but it wasn't obvious to Amara. She was too caught up in her own thoughts about the wedding, wondering what it would be like to marry Obina, what their life would look like once they settled into their new home. It was all she could think about. Adanna finally broke the silence, her voice cheerful but just a little too bright. We're almost there. This place is supposed to be amazing. You're going to love it, Amara. Just wait until you see the spa. Amara smiled, grateful for the distraction. I'm so ready to relax, she said. I need it. This wedding planning is crazy. Don't worry, Chioma added, glancing over her shoulder. We've got you covered. This weekend is all about fun, no wedding talk allowed. The girls all laughed, but it was forced. Amara didn't notice though, she was too eager to forget the stress of the wedding preparations. They finally reached the resort, an old charming lodge tucked away in the woods, surrounded by the quiet hum of nature. It looked like the perfect place to escape from everything. Amara let out a contented sigh as she stepped out of the car. The resort was just as beautiful as they had promised, cozy cabins, a sparkling lake, and towering trees that made the whole world feel far away. After settling in and unpacking, the group made their way to the lounge, where the drinks flowed freely, and the laughter, though nervous, filled the air. Amara was the first to grab a glass of champagne. "To friendship," she said, raising her glass. Her friends clinked their glasses with hers, and the sound of the toast echoed through the room. But Chioma's eyes didn't meet Amara's. Instead, she looked at the others, her lips curving into a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. She quickly drained her glass, setting it down with a deliberate clink. "To making memories," she added, her voice just a little too high-pitched. Adanna was already moving toward the bar, asking the bartender for a special cocktail. "You're going to love this one," she said, her smile too tight, her movements too quick. Nkechi sat back in her chair, her eyes scanning the room, though it wasn't the decor that caught her attention. It was the hired man standing near the door. Tall, broad-shouldered, and with a look of quiet intensity. He nodded when he caught her eye, a subtle but clear signal that everything was set. Amara didn't notice any of it. She was too busy enjoying the escape, the fleeting moment where everything felt right. She felt safe in the company of her friends. Little did she know, things were about to take a dark turn. Later that night, after a long day of fake smiles and strained laughter, Amara was feeling the effects of the alcohol. The girls had kept her drinking, one cocktail after another, until she was lightheaded and relaxed. Adanna smiled at her, watching with a quiet satisfaction. "Hey Amara," Chioma said, leaning in close with a conspiratorial grin. "How about we play a game? A little fun before bed." Amara, already tipsy, nodded eagerly. "Sure, what do you have in mind?" Chioma slipped something from her bag, a small, unmarked vial. She flashed a smile. "Just a little something to make the night more memorable." Nkechi raised an eyebrow but didn't speak, watching the scene unfold with a practiced calm. She knew what was about to happen. Adanna's eyes flickered to her, confirming that everything was in place. They'd been planning this for weeks, making sure everything was set up perfectly. Chioma poured the contents of the vial into Amara's glass, without a second thought. "You'll feel great," she said smoothly, her voice almost too sweet. "Trust us." Amara took the glass without suspicion, sipping the drink with a smile. "You guys know how to treat a girl," she said, giggling. As the night wore on, Amara began to feel drowsy. She couldn't quite place it. Everything was spinning just a little too fast. The laughter of her friends faded into a distant hum as her vision blurred. She wanted to resist, to stay awake and enjoy the fun, but her body felt heavy, like it was no longer her own. Her last memory of the night was stumbling toward her bed, the room tilting around her. She collapsed onto the soft sheets, unable to keep her eyes open. Outside, in the shadows, the hired man moved toward the cabin's back door, his footsteps silent. Meanwhile, Chioma quietly pulled out her phone, her fingers trembling as she pressed record. She had to get the footage. She had to have leverage. The plan was set. Everything was falling into place. And as Amara drifted into an uneasy sleep, unaware of the storm building around her, the girls' laughter echoed in the distance. But it wasn't the sound of celebration. It was the sound of betrayal.
Hey, Freezy Stories family. We're so glad you stopped by to watch. Your support means the world to us. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button, drop a comment, and subscribe to our channel. It helps us grow and keeps us motivated to bring you even more incredible stories. Thank you for being part of our journey. See you in the next one.